If you try to open an international bank account remotely the wrong way, you're going to hit a wall. Endless forms, emails that never get a reply, video calls that never lead to an approval, and in the worst case, a transaction that gets silently logged into the bank system. Meanwhile, other people with a similar profile to yours are opening accounts in top-tier banks in solid jurisdictions 100% remotely. Same documents, but a completely different result. Today, I'm going to show you why that happens and how to open a remote international bank account the right way, without flying across the world, without wasting months, and without gambling your name with random banks. I'm Matteo Maglia, Partnership Manager in GloboBanks, the banking introduction company for international accounts. Every week, our team helps entrepreneurs, investors, and companies open personal and businesses accounts in some of the best banks in the world, always fully remotely in places like Europe, the US, the UAE, Asia, and the Caribbean. And what I can tell you is very simple. Today, opening the right account in the right country, fully remote on your own, is harder than ever. With GloboBanks, it becomes realistic, structured, and predictable. Let's break it down. The first thing you need to understand is this. Remote account opening is not a magic button. It's not go on Google, pick a random bank, fill in a form, and you're done. Banks don't all play by the same rules. Some accept non-residents, some don't. Some allow 100% remote onboarding, some requires video calls, for example, and many of them will reject you instantly if you approach them the wrong way. So, before we even talk about specific banks or countries, you have to answer 3 questions. Who you are, what you really need, and where it makes sense for you to bank. If you skip this, you're just guessing, and guessing with banks usually ends badly. Let's start with who you are. Banks don't just see your name and passport. They see a profile, your citizenship, your country of residence, what you do for a living, how you make your money, for example, if you're an entrepreneur, a freelancer, a consultant, a shareholder, okay? And whether your business operates locally or internationally. For some profiles, doors open easily, for others, doors close quickly. If you are resident in a well-regarded jurisdiction with a clean professional history, clear tax residency, and a simple structure, you have far more options to open accounts remotely. If you're in a higher risk country, you work in a sensitive industry, or you have multiple companies and complex flows, you don't just apply online. You need to be presented correctly, and this is one of the big advantages of working with GloboBanks. We don't just throw you at a bank, we first analyze your profile, your documents, your story, and then we match you with banks that already accept clients like you. That's something you almost never get if you apply directly. Second, you have to be clear on what you actually need. Most people think, I just need a easy bank account. In reality, that's almost never true. Do you need a personal account only, or also a business account for your company? Or do you need multi-currency? Or also, do you need to send and receive payments in USD, euros? Do you need cards, debit cards, credit cards, even premium cards, or only a place to park funds? Do you work with crypto-sourced funds and need a bank that tolerates or even understands that? Are you planning to receive high-value international transfers every month, or just use the account as a reserve, a plan B? All of this matters because the bank that is perfect for an Italian consultant, for example, doing 10k a month in euro, is not the same bank that works for a holding company with 500k per month in dollars. So, for example, also for crypto-heavy entrepreneurs who need a solid conservative counterpart. At GloboBanks, we start from your use case, how much, from where, to where, in which currencies, with which risk level. From there, we narrow down the banks, the countries, and the onboarding method fully remote. This is why our remote openings don't feel like a lottery. They generate around your requirements. Third, you need to choose where you open the account. Not every jurisdiction is equal. Some are great for reputational safety and long-term wealth protection. Others are good, for example, for flexibility and speed. Others again are interesting as tunnels, so like connection you can use if you ever need to move quickly. For example, many of our clients want one strong account in Europe, one in North America or in the Caribbean, and one in a strategic hub like, for example, the UAE or Asia. That way, they are not dependent on a single country, a single regulator, or a single political system. But again, doing this alone is extremely hard. You don't know which banks are still open to non-residents. You don't see the internal policies. You don't know which parts post they silently don't want. GloboBanks does. We work with more than 60 banking partners in multiple jurisdictions. We established the relationship and agreements with the banks, so we can tell you where it makes sense to apply and where you would just be wasting your time. Now, let's talk about the actual process of opening a bank account remotely. In theory, it's just fill an application, send your documents, wait for approval. In reality, remote onboarding has 3 invisible layers: compliance, story, and presentation. First, the compliance. You will always need a valid ID, proof of address, and proof of income or wealth. But with international accounts, that's just the beginning. Banks may ask for example, company documents, tax numbers, invoices, contracts, bank statements from your current bank, and explanation for specific transactional flows. If you send the wrong thing or your answer a question in the wrong way, you can trigger a red flag without even realizing it. This is why compliance is not something you deal with later. It's something you prepare before you apply. At GloboBanks, we help clients structure their documentation in advance, so when the bank looks at your file, they see clarity, logic, and consistency, no confusion. So second way, your story. Banks are not only checking documents, they are asking themselves, does this profile make sense? Do the numbers add up? Is there anything here that could come back to us as a problem? If you're a digital nomad or you run an online business or you have an income from multiple countries, your story needs to be explained clearly. Where do you live? Where do you pay taxes? Where do your clients come from? Why do you need an international account? When you apply alone, you usually improvise this explanation. You send a few lines by email, you answer quickly during a video call, for example, you assume they get it, but they don't. With GloboBanks, we help you define this story before you face the bank. What to say, what to not to say, how to highlight your strengths, and how to frame your situation so that the banker sees you as a future valuable client, not a compliance headache. Third, the presentation. Most people approach banks in the worst possible way. They send cold emails to generic addresses. They fill out random online forms. They talk to whoever answers the phone first. From the bank's perspective, that's just noise. When GloboBanks introduce you, we don't go through the front door like everyone else. We go through established channels with bankers and teams that already know who we are and what kind of clients we send. This doesn't guarantee the approval, but we do like a pre-application before sending you to the bank, so we are like pretty sure that the bank will accept you, and it dramatically increases the odds that someone actually reads your file, understands your profile, and wants you as a client. That's the difference between trying alone and being introduced. There's another important point when we talk about opening accounts remotely. A lot of people confuse real bank accounts with fintech apps and EMAIs. Fintech platforms can be useful tools, but they are not a substitute for a serious bank in a strong jurisdiction. Many of our clients come to us after they've already opened like 3-4 digital accounts, hit limits, had transfer blocked, or discovered that their IBAN or the account number is not really what they thought it was. So in this video, when I say bank account, I mean actual banks with licenses, regulators, and real balance sheet behind them. That's what we focus on at GloboBanks. Real banks, real relationship, real access. So when does it make sense to open an account 100% remotely? Well, if your profile is relatively straightforward, you have clean documentation, and you work with an introducer like GloboBanks, you can often open excellent accounts fully remote. If your situation is more complex, or if you want to access very exclusive banks and private banking services, usually the banks ask you to go there physically. But like I said you before, with our partnership with the banks, we always can help you open the account 100% remotely with a very high acceptance rate. It's very important because if you are going to try to open an account alone and you try 1, 2, 3, 4 and more banks and all of these banks decline your application, your information will be saved, and when you try to open like the fifth bank account, this new bank will see that you were like declined from 4 banks, and this is very bad because the fifth bank will for sure not accepting you. So GloboBanks is acting as your bridge between you and the bank. Let me leave you with this. Opening a remote international bank account is possible, but it's not random. You need the right profile, the right country, the right bank, the right story, and the right presentation. If you try to do this alone, you're competing with thousands of anonymous applications every year, and you're expecting a bank that doesn't know you, doesn't understand your situation, and doesn't need new clients to go out of its way to approve you. That's not how it works. At GloboBanks, we exist to solve exactly this problem. We help you understand your real options, avoid banks that, for example, will never accept you, prepare your documents and your story, and get introduced to institutions that can actually open your account 100% remotely. If you want to see whether you qualify to open an international bank account remotely, you'll find a link below. Answer a few questions and our team will review your profile and tell you which jurisdictions and accounts types make the most sense for you right now. I'm Matteo Maglia for GloboBanks. Don't wait for the next banking crisis or the next restriction to discover that you should have diversified earlier. Start building your international banking structure now, while you still have the freedom to choose. I'll see you in the next video.